Hey there guys, how are you? Welcome back to another awesome video. It's time for a brand new top 10 video. Today's top 10 video is going to be the top 10 TV show slash animated cartoon Disney villains. So for this list, we'll be looking at obviously the TV show animated Disney villains. And just in case, there are going to be some mild spoilers if you haven't seen any of these. But without further ado, let's get into it. And at number 10, we have the Sorcerer slash Lord Dragonus. Now, these are two villains that aren't really from the most well-praised shows, but let's get into them. So, with Randy Cunningham, 9th Grade Ninja, it's definitely, some people may not like it, and even if there are some things to like about it, I guess there's the Witch Doctor kid, Voodoo Kid, that people might like as the villain, but he's not really the main villain. The main villain is obviously the Sorcerer, and I think what's really great about the Sorcerer is just how eerie, and just how kind of like he's very powerful, very eerie, kind of mysterious and grimy. He has this like creepy like feel to him, being underneath the sewers and such. And you got Lord Dragonus, who he's just very powerful and just like he's a freaking like giant alien lizard dragon thing that just looks so cool and kind of like stoic and powerful. And what's really great about both these characters is they're voiced by Tim Curry. I mean, this guy is like a freaking national treasure. Like he really brings like these great over-the-topness and Tim Curry-ness to these roles that makes them really enjoyable and really fun, but also make them very, like, obviously evil, of course, because just look at the things that Tim Curry has done. It's just, he's Tim Curry. But anyways, at number 9, we have Mosenrath from the Aladdin TV show. He's young, but he's power-hungry, and he may be related to Jafar. Even if he's not, he definitely does share a bit of complexions like Jafar. The way he's dressed, the way he's designed, he has a talking animal, how he's kind of power-hungry, and all that, and sort of arrogant and sophisticated. So, I mean, who knows if he's really Jafar's descendant. I don't know if he truly is. I don't remember if he is. I wish I knew. But if he is, that's awesome. That makes him even twice as better as a villain. But even though he is young, he is still power hungry. And I like that he does show that he is a force to be reckoned with. And at number 8 is Shere Khan and Don Carnage. So two villains from Tailspins. And what I like with Shere Khan, what is done with Shere Khan in the Tailspin series, that's definitely different from, say, the Jungle Book movie, or any adaptation of Jungle Book, is that he's like a businessman. He's like a billionaire, a debonair, I meant to say. Debonair, very like CEO, business guy type guy. But that's not what makes him very evil. What makes him really evil in this show is just how he runs like a kingpin, which is great. Like the underground stuff he does that's very evil and lowbrow and low-key and those other things. It makes it very cool, very sneaky. And I like that. And I feel like that is something like Shere Khan would do. He'd run kind of the world like a crime lord, almost in a sense. And Don Carnage is just great. He's a pirate. He's just how over the top he is, and the fact that Jim Cummings voices the character, and he just brings this like craziness to it. It's fun, it's enjoyable, it's over the top, it's cheesy, but it's definitely really fun to see and whatnot. And I'm glad to see him. I'm glad to see this character show up in the new DuckTales reboot show, and how like musically inclined he is, and I can't wait to see what he can perform next on that in the next season. And number 7. We have Gantu and Dr. Hamsterville. So I had to pair these two together because they're the best when they're paired up together. Like when you see these two on screen, on camera, they're the best. With Jeff Bennett's like squeaky high-pitched voice and Kevin Michael Richardson's sort of like bumbling personality to Gantu, it just comes full circle. And just they're kind of like the best comedic timing of the bunch in a sense, in a sort of way. And I love how like Jeff Bennett is obviously the more he's basically the brains of the operation, and then Kevin Michael Richardson is more of the, I guess, basically the muscle, the brute, and sort of like that. And that's how Gantu is in sort of a sense. And it's funny seeing how Gantu's trying to capture these small little experiments, and you just hear basically Hamsterville berating him and berating him about how he's a failure and all this other stuff. And it's funny even when Hamsterville is always saying Hamsterville, not hamster wheel or hamster vile. It's Hamsterville. It's funny. They're just great comedic characters of the Lilo and Stitch series in terms of the villains and all that great stuff. Number 6, we have David Xanatos. Definitely a very great villain from a very perfect Disney afternoon show. One that was just perfectly fun and perfectly dark at the same time. And Xanatos was definitely an element that really broadened that up and really, I guess, broadened that up, like I just said. But what's great about Xanatos is the fact that he's basically, in a sense, like an evil Tony Stark. Like, you picture Tony Stark, and Xanatos is like 6 times more worse than him, with how just, like, how he's very, like, sneaky when it comes to trying to being evil, and he's always perceived as a good person and the good guy and trying to be the hero in his situation, and kind of has this relatability in a sense, and just with his technology, his intelligence that he has along with him, and just the I guess like I said, the sort of undergroundness that he's perceived as sort of like the good person around here, but he's actually the villain. And that power suit, that like mech suit, that gargoyle suit he has, is just so cool. It's so badass, honestly. And it's great that, I think what makes this character even more phenomenal is that he's voiced by, I think, Jonathan Frakes, who is on Star Trek and has appeared in many other things that people recognize him from, and he just definitely brings out that character's very, very eccentricness. Alright, we're near down to final 5 my list. And at number 5 is Lord Hater and Dr. Heinz Doofenshmirtz. So, I want to get into Lord Hater real quick. On a real quick fact, and on a side note, I hate the show Wander Over Yonder. I despise the show. I think it's annoying. But the one thing that I really think is really kind of like the one redeeming thing that I do like about the show is the villain, and that's Lord Hater. Because I love how he's so full of himself, so not really arrogant, but he's full of himself. He's very egocentric, and he's basically giving himself his own theme song, and he raves about how awesome he is and such. It's so funny. And he also brings also a great, like, very evil to him, but he also just plays it very funny too. I love the balance of him being very super evil, wanting to destroy the galaxy and wanting to kill Wander, and he just comes off as like, yes, I am awesome and I'm the most powerful person in the whole wide world. He even wrote a theme song about himself. It's funny that way, and just how like heavy metal based he looks. Like, he looks like something out of a cover band. Like, I'm not even joking. So I will give the show that. I hate the show Wander Over Yonder, but I do like Lord Hater, and that's really cool. And I think the fact that he wants to kill Wander makes me even like him anymore, because I actually hate Wander, so I like that he's trying to kill him. And with Doofenshmirtz, it's a different sort of story, because like he's definitely evil, but he's very pathetic at it, and that's the joke. That's always the run-on joke of it, is that his failed attempts are always the run-on joke of the show, and obviously, just his backstories are very sad, like in a pathetic way, but in a small sense, they're kind of like sympathetic, because if you look at it, he's kind of got basically a semi-abusive father and a mother that never really loved him and always kind of favored his brother Roger. So you kind of feel bad for him, and you kind of see why he tries to actually try and take over the tri-state area. And just with him being this evil scientist and his, I guess, intelligence of science, or his mastery in science, even though, like I said, his inventions always fail, which is another funny part about his character. But just, the guy is a fan favorite in terms of just, I guess, cartoon villains out there and such. And he's definitely, I'd say he's kind of getting to be iconic a little, but it's Doofenshmirtz. I mean, he's great. It's funny. He's funny. But he's also not just meant to be funny. He definitely has a bit of, like I said, sympatheticness, and he does try and have his attempts to be evil, which is good, which is fair. All right, number 4 is Bill Cipher and Magica Dispel. So let's go into Magica real quick. Magica, I like what the original has done, like the original DuckTales show does with her being this master of disguise and trying to obviously steal like Scrooge's money bin and such like that. But I really gotta give props to the 2017 DuckTales reboot of Magica, because I like how she's this wicked sorceress that's all powerful almost, and sort of like this sympatheticness of how she was, I guess, trapped in the money coin, like Scrooge's money coin, I think it is, her famous money coin, his famous money coin, which I think has a nice little nod or a little like I guess reference in a sort of sense, and that she's trapped in this like shadow realm and all these other things. But I love how she definitely is very evil, and she's definitely very wicked, but I like how she's very like, she's not pathetic, but she does have her failed attempts, but I like that she is very comedic too. She has a good balance of evil and having fun being evil, but actually having great comedic timing and such and whatnot. And I think with Bill Cipher, I think Bill Cipher does the same thing, but 10 times better and 10 times bigger, because I love what Alex Hirsch has done with that character, and just how like mysterious and kind of like creepy and just very all-powerful Bill Cipher is from Gravity Falls. And I love how how he's just created this, how Alex has just created this character from being such a just an enigma to we get more and we start to see more of him and how powerful and how scary of a villain he is and a threat. And I also love how he like I said, it's very still like he's mysterious at first, but then we still get to see what Bill is, but we still don't know what he exactly is, where he actually come from. Like how was he created? How was he born? How, like, and all these other things. I feel like we've gotten bits and snippets of things of what Bill is, but I feel like there's still mysterious things on what, who, why, and where Bill kind of has come from. And plus, I feel like there is still a bit of a mystery of that. Is Bill truly dead? Like, is he truly dead? We may never know. But I like that a lot. And just the whole, like, Illuminati sort of, like, I guess, conspiracy definitely plays into it, of course. But I think just, that aside, he's a well-written character, a well-written villain for a great show that they did. Let's see here. Alright, at number 3 is Eclipsa. So, what's really great with Eclipsa is not only is she's very funny, and she's very evil, but she has to be, I think, the most relatable or the most sympathetic of all these villains, in my opinion. Because I think what's really interesting is that how, in a sense, she wasn't forced to be the villain. Because, yes, she likes being evil, and she is always, like, built up to be this very evil person, but in reality, she wasn't. And the problem was kind of that she was put in the situation where she was going, you want me to be the bad guy? Fine. I'm the bad guy now. So you kind of feel bad that she was kind of put to be this monster because everyone else portrayed her as a monster, so she embraced that evil. She embraced her inner, like, villainess. And she's definitely a great villainess of the Star vs. Forces of Evil show. And what I also really like is she definitely keeps in theme with the whole idea of the whole humans and monsters trying to be, like, reunited and be at peace with each other. Because she was in a situation where she was in love with a monster. And I think she was in love with, like, what looks like a demon or the devil almost, in a sense. For whatever. But she was in love with a monster. And that plays into, obviously, the theme. And her being a butterfly definitely plays a part in how she's connected to Star and how she's connected to the family, and then how even during that trial, like I said, that sort of feeling of that she wasn't the false accusations she had, and the fact that she makes her even more sympathetic and more relatable is that she's obviously missing her daughter, and that they've rewritten her daughter out of existence, and that her real daughter is part monster and part human, and just how like she's able to accept her daughter for that, and just no matter how like crazy of a freak she is that the world perceives her as, even just Eclipsa herself. And she's definitely just a nasty, wicked villain. And I just like what they've done with her, whether it's her wickedness or the sympathy. It's really fantastic. I love that a bunch. At number 2, we have Dr. Draken and Shigo. Kind of like with Hamsaville and Gantu, these two, Shigo and Draken work perfect as a dynamic together. And I think that's great because of both John DiMaggio and Nicole Silverman, I think her name is. I forget the actress's name, who's Shigo, but they're both great talents, and they're working off each other is fantastic. And they're sort of like, I guess, not self-awareness, but the fact that they're meant to be like, kind of like, parody Bond villains and this sort of spy genre. And it's kind of funny how Draken is the one who's got the very like pathetic like ways of like trying to stop Kim Possible in his long monologues, while Shigo has got her sarcastic, sassy sort of attitude towards everyone, and even Draken himself, and Draken being more of the, I guess, intelligence, and then Shigo being more of the, not necessarily the muscle, but she's more of the combat person that does all the martial arts, that does all the fighting and all that fun stuff, and then Draken is just does the inventions. But although they are funny, they are still very evil, and I think they're very iconic in the sort of TV realm, the very cartoon realm, because you definitely can recognize Draken and Shigo just by how they look and just by who they are, and by their voices as well. And I think that's what's really great, because Kim Possible was a good show, and I think it was because of not only their hero, but also their villains. And they definitely had some great villains, but these two are definitely the best and definitely the most infamous of the show. Now, before I unveil my number 1 pick, here are a few honorable mentions. Nosferatu! Definitely a really great sounding name. I love how futuristic and all like cybernetic he looks and alien-esque he is, and just how almost like creepy and sophisticated he looks as well. It's kind of cool. It's very powerful as well. Gideon. No, actually, wait. Yeah, Gideon. At first, I was very unsure about Gideon being a villain, but I think what I really like about him is how his innocence and the fact that he basically has the whole world wrapped around his finger, and because of his innocence, no one would believe that he's the villain, and no one would suspect his evil intentions. And especially when we find out that he has both the first and second journals of the show, and it's definitely was the biggest twist for me. Glomgold. I don't remember if Glomgold was in the original DuckTales show, but I really like what they do with him in the new show, with how he's very obsessive and of trying to basically get Scrooge's money bin and trying to be more richer than him and trying to outbest him in any competition. And I like some of the things that they do with him in season 2 that give him a little bit of like, not a backstory, but definitely make him, I guess, different and add a bit of like complexions to him almost in a sort of way. Ludo. So, I want to say something about Ludo real quick. In season 1 of Star Wars: The Force of Evil, I felt he was very like underused and very weak. Although he definitely is voiced by Alan Tudyk, which is cool, and he definitely has a really like cool design. I prefer when we see Ludo in seasons, like the later seasons, like season 2 and season 3, because I love how his progression has become, because he's gone from basically this kind of like, sort of like very sad villain to like, in a pathetic way, to we actually like see him like basically grow and develop as a character. I like that a lot, like when he survived in the harsh winters in the forest, and later on then progressing to become a very more powerful threat by stealing the butterfly spellbook, which I think was really just interesting as well, and to make him more of this powerful threat and more of a scary threat rather than this just wimpy joke going, oh, it's just Ludo, alright, we'll take care of him. He actually becomes something more scarier and more of an evil threat for the butterfly family later on in the show, which I do like a lot. Toffee. So since we're on the theme of Star Wars: The Force of Evil, let's keep it going with Toffee, and I know that's a weird name, but he's definitely a different type of villain, and I love how he just basically took Ludo's army underneath his shoes, and just how sophisticated and how very like businessman he was, but he was also very powerful in that sort of like sophistication. And also the fact that he's kind of immortal and very crazy in a small way. And I like that he was voiced by Michael C. Hall, which brought that character even more together, which was definitely more phenomenal. Fat Cat. So I just love this character a lot. It's very funny to me. I love it because it's from Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. It's Jim Cummings. He definitely loves playing the villains. It seems he really enjoys playing the villains a ton in Disney cartoons. If it's not Winnie the Pooh, he's definitely voicing a villain for sure, without a doubt. But I love how he's a literal fat cat and just how funny he is to me. But he also is a very big threat. So yeah. Let's see. Demona. Another great villain from the show Gargoyles. She definitely has a different perspective compared to the Gargoyles on how like the world is and humans and how they treat the Gargoyles and such like that. Because obviously the Gargoyles and Goliath are thinking we should protect the humans, when she's on the side of we must destroy them for they don't accept us anymore. And it is that sort of like prejudice sort of thing that she hasn't bent in her mind. And she definitely was a very great threat. But also a sympathetic threat too. Zurg from the Buzz Lightyear's Star Command show, or that's Buzz Lightyear TV show they did. I like seeing Zurg in the Toy Story 2 movie was cool, but I think I really like what they do with Zurg in the show is different in a good way, because I think he comes off very comedic, but then again, that's because of the talents of Wayne Knight. But what's really funny is that Wayne Knight definitely brings comedicness to the voice of Zurg, but he adds like this big, like almost like gravitas in his voice and the sinistery and such to him. And I like kind of like, there's a lot more to Zurg than meets the eye in a sort of way, and the reveal of what happens later on the show is definitely a big surprising and kind of, I guess, playing with the idea of like, it's kind of like a Vader sort of character, which is just kind of cool, but it's definitely very different from Vader in a small, big way. I know that doesn't make any sense, but still. Archmage. So with Xanatos, he was more on the side of technology and being obsessive with like power and trying to like run the world. Archmage was more along the lines of was more of the mystic side and the magic, and he was definitely more powerful like that, and very old in a wise, stoic way that I think he was just a really cool villain. And plus his voice was great. Whoever voiced the guy, I forgot who it was definitely fantastic as well. And now, my #1 pick of my top 10 animated TV show / cartoon Disney villains is, drumroll please, Negaduck! So I know there's the negative Negaduck we see at first, but I'm talking about Negaduck. And although all the other villains of the show are great, none are as great as Negaduck. And maybe that's because I do may or may not favorite Darkwing Duck, because Darkwing Duck is one of my favorite Disney Afternoon shows and one of my favorite Disney cartoons, without a doubt. But Negaduck is a fantastic villain, and him being basically the polar opposite in his parallels to Darkwing Duck makes him even more interesting. Because if we are making that comparison of Darkwing Duck is Batman, Negaduck is Joker. Well, he's more like Owlman, actually, because he's like basically a literal parallel universe of Darkwing, where he's more evil, he's chaotic, he's maniacal, he's psychotic, he's so deranged in himself, and so deranged and full of himself that he's just so crazy. And obviously not even just the personality, but his design is definitely opposite of Darkwing as well, from his yellow to the yellows, from the reds to the blacks and such. And like I said, just how deranged, how psychotic he is compared to Darkwing Duck. And also just how egotistical he still is. Although he's very opposite to Darkwing Duck, he still has that sort of like very like full of himself sort of like personality that Darkwing Duck would have. But instead he goes on about he's more evil than anyone else in the world. He's the biggest baddie there is in the existence of the universe and all his other things. And although he's not the most powerful, he's definitely very either as strong as Darkwing, if not stronger. And I love that. It's funny. It's even funnier when Jim Cummings plays both Darkwing Duck and Negaduck at the same time. So it makes it even more funnier to have these two go off each other. And he's one of my favorite villains. He's just fantastic in this show without a shadow of a doubt. And I love how deranged he is. I love how crazy it is. I like the colors of him. I like how evil he can be, and how sinister and how diabolical and all this other stuff he is, and how it's almost done in a very not over the top way, but it's done in the right over the topness and such. That, and like I said, because he is Darkwing's opposite, the dynamic and rivalry between the two of them feel like they come off as a yin-yang complexion. And I loved seeing him show up in 2017's DuckTales, and that was such a great reveal and such an epic twist as well. And I can't wait to see more of Darkwing Duck and more of those characters, and I'm so excited to see more of those characters in that show. But those are my favorite animated TV show Disney villains, and let me know in the comments, what are your favorites? Are there any I forgot? Let me know. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please smash that like button. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. I do awesome videos every day, if not every week. And make sure you ring that bell to be notified of new videos, new content, all that and more. And leave your suggestions in the comments of requests and suggestions and all that good stuff. And make sure you share the video with your family and your friends and all that stuff. And make sure to look out for more reviews, more top 10s, more gaming, maybe some vlogs, maybe I'll bring back awesome news, we'll see what happens, maybe some TV show reviews, all sorts of good stuff like that. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.